The island of Sodor is famous, or I guess you could say infamous, for its train crashes. Accidents happen now and again, just when you least expect. Most people have several minor accidents in their lives, but if you live on the island of Sodor, you have probably witnessed, nearly missed, or, more likely, experienced several not-so-minor accidents.
Say the line, Bart!
Luckily, no one was hurt.
These are stories meant for young kids, after all. My 4-year-old doesn't want to hear about factory workers who got burned by molten chocolate and squashed by machinery after Percy crashed through the chocolate factory.
I've never been this dirty!
She wants to hear the other engines call him Dirty Percy because it pisses him off.
Don't call me Dirty Percy!
Granted, that's what I want too, but we're not talking about me. We're talking about the children.
I like children.
On rare occasions, however, someone does get hurt. Someone isn't so lucky. Dirty Percy 6 here. This video is brought to you by feelings of love and affection for this silly blue train and his friends. I needed an excuse for a series binge, because these essays about evolutionary psychology might literally kill me. However, apparently, I decided to torture myself making this video as well, because I didn't start the script until April 14th. So you're seeing a video I cranked out at supersonic speed!
Oh boy!
I watched the entire series in less than 2 weeks. All 24 seasons, plus the pack series, as well as every single full-length special. I didn't watch the Bwubba specials because I hate them and I don't want to. Is that a good enough reason? That's actually not even the reason. I just realized that I forgot they existed and it's too late to do it now. Dirty Percy 6, why did you do this to yourself? This is insanity! That's because my contribution to the 80th anniversary celebration of the Railway series is to find all the times when someone might have been hurt in one of the series' iconic crashes. I really wanted to do an 80-minute video for the 80th anniversary, and I think I actually came close to that. I did not start the editing process for this video until May 9th.
Oh!
I examined all the TV series episodes and specials for accidents that did not say, luckily no one was hurt. Some of these crashes weren't even acknowledged as crashes or accidents by the narrator, and often we, as the audience, don't recognize these minor instances as crashes because we're spoiled by the incredible crashes that this show has to offer. We forget minor collisions are also crashes. We forget that the smallest of crashes can cause severe, permanent damage.
You've spilt my bunting!
Humans are extremely fragile, and I want to highlight that fragility, even the smallest of jostlings, can lead to a herniated disc, a huge insurance claim, and long-term pain and suffering. Ask me how I know. For simplicity's sake, a crash is a collision between two entities. For this video's sake, one of those entities must involve humans either aboard the engine, train, or vehicle, or close enough to the crash to potentially get hurt. The movie Big World, Big Adventures will not be included in this list as the special has no narrator. And like I said, I'm not counting the Bwubba specials because I forgot they existed. That's how memorable they are. Which means Steam Team to the Rescue, All Tracks Lead to Rome, Minds of Mystery, A New Arrival, and World of Tomorrow will not be counted. Big World, Big Adventures imagination sequences are just that, imagination.
Imagination! Imagination!
Are you gonna take us somewhere or not?
I also will not be counting biffing and bashing trucks unless the trucks get damaged or derailed. Unless those trucks are attached to another engine. Off-screen crashes and falling snowdrifts will also not be counted. Sudden stops will not be counted unless passengers are involved. Engines ramming each other to avoid an accident will not be counted either. Derailments do not count unless they are accompanied by an impact of some sort. These are the rules I try my best to stick to throughout this video. I believe I found every single incident where it is not specified that the crash did not cause any harm. Now, as a disclaimer, I chose to use the American dub for this project, as I believed that if luckily no one was hurt was added to one dub and not the other, it would be added to the US dub. Smash that subscribe button and sit back while we discuss train crashes. Series 1. In Thomas Terrence and the Snow, Thomas crashes into a snowbank, getting himself stuck in it.
Cinders and ashes, said Thomas. I'm stuck. And he was.
No, wait a minute, stop. I'm stuck. Listen, Johnny. I'm getting mad, Johnny. Stop being stuck, Johnny.
Thomas began to cry.
The sudden stop could have easily given any passengers whiplash because of the impact, as they just crashed into a wall. Granted, it was a wall of snow, but still, a wall. Right before Henry's first flying kipper crash, the narrator says,
They got out just in time.
but that doesn't mean there were no injuries, and I am specifically looking for times they don't say, luckily no one was hurt. So this counts. Realistically, his crew jumped out of a moving train that was likely going at least 50 miles an hour. The other train crew exited the brake van just in time to miss the impact of Henry hitting it. But that brake van fucking exploded! There's a good chance someone got hit with debris. In James in a Mess,
Ugh.
they don't say it after the tar wagon accident either. He not only derailed, but he was going at speed downhill before the impact. Even if they jumped out before the crash, then what? They get splashed with tar?
Whatever is that dirty object? James pretended he hadn't heard.
In Down the Mine, right before Thomas falls into the mine, he bumps his driver off the footplate. That means his driver fell and it looks like he landed on his tailbone. Later, in Blue Mountain Mystery, this crash is recreated with his crew still inside the cab. Either way, someone definitely got hurt.
That sign can't stop me because I can't read.
Good God, that makes my back hurt just thinking about it. Huh. Series 2. In A Close Shave, we know the people inside the barbershop were okay. Duck's crew may have been injured, and the conductor was knocked off the train, which also likely injured him. As small children, this line
The trucks had knocked their guard off his van.
probably made us think he hadn't been hurt because he wasn't part of the impact of the accident. But he was knocked off a train. And sure, he could have tuck and rolled. But that's a preventative measure that only minimizes injuries and doesn't fully prevent them. And there is still an impact when hitting the ground. The crash's impact very likely hurt the crew, especially if they braced themselves for it. Did you know that bracing for impact actually causes more injury than it protects you from? Ask me how I know. Donald and Douglas both cause accidents in their debut episode.
You're a muckle nuisance.
Donald runs into a signal box, and the narrator says that Donald wasn't hurt.
In the US dub. In the UK dub, he does not. This is why I chose to use the US dub for this, because if any lines like that were added, it's gonna be to the US dub.
But when Douglas smashes the brake van, this is, as far as I can tell, the first time the narrator explicitly tells us that no one has been hurt.
No one had been hurt, and soon Edward came to clear the mess.
Hooray! When Thomas comes to breakfast, it is implied by the dialogue right after the crash that no one was hurt. But it's not explicitly stated.
You miserable engine! Just look what you've done to our breakfast! Thomas felt depressed.
Both kids look absolutely terrified. And there's a good chance that the falling plaster hit them, or there were at least some splinters, and more likely some psychological trauma. Sometimes not getting hurt can traumatize you too, but that is a topic for a different video. In Percy's predicament, the line after his crash onto the freight car is, Percy's driver and fireman had jumped clear, but Percy was stranded. It's another moment that implies the crew wasn't involved in the accident's impact, and therefore they were not injured. But is that really what it means? They jumped out of a moving train. This isn't Minecraft.
Goodbye, legally distinct Thomas. What if I touch my XLR cable?
In Percy's ghostly trick, Percy hits a cart of lime that was left across the line. Then he scares the shit out of Thomas.
Oh dear.
And as you can tell, Thomas is traumatized.
Some people are really fucking stupid.
In Thomas and the Missing Christmas Tree, he crashes into a snowdrift, and it's a little funny to me, because he comes around the bend and he's wearing what I call his stank face, because he knows what's about to happen, and he's pissed off about it. I bet he was told that he needed his snowplow. Or maybe he wasn't. Either way, he would be pissed about that if he was told to wear his snowplow and didn't. He's done this before.
And Thomas began to cry.
But if he wasn't told to wear his snowplow and got stuck in the snow, he's probably even more pissed about it because it wasn't his fault that time. But again, that's like crashing into a wall, so it counts. This was everything for the first two series, and I'm realizing there's a lot more of these than I anticipated. A lot more. I thought there would be maybe 4 or 5 instances through the entire series, but there have been quite a few. In fact, we've only been reassured that no one was hurt once so far. Series 3. When Percy sneaks up on the coaches and smashes the baggage trolley in a scarf for Percy, the porters and the passengers on the platform could have been seriously injured. The cart splintered, and Sir Topham Hatt's baggage exploded everywhere. What happened to the jam jar?
I mean the glass. We can clearly see what happened to the jam inside the jar, but what happened to the glass from the jar? Oh, okay.
What happened to the porters?
They're definitely wobbling. Most likely got knocked down or hit with something. This was also recreated in Blue Mountain Mystery.
I was trying to sneak up on the coaches, and I crashed right into Sir Topham Hatt's baggage trolley.
Granted, it doesn't look super great, but hey, it's nice when the show references itself. We like that. It's me, I am we.
This isn't fun.
In Diesel Does It Again, Diesel suddenly shunts into Percy, and Percy took off immediately afterwards, which means that his crew was in the cab when it happened. This could easily give someone a whiplash or a disc herniation. To put it into perspective, the truck that backed into my car 3 years ago was going less than 5 miles per hour on impact, and I had to have an extremely invasive and painful back surgery because of it. In the episode Oliver Owns Up, Oliver fails to stop some freight cars while shunting in the yard, and he falls into the turntable well.
I'm winning.
No, you're not.
In Percy, James, and the Fruitful Day, after Percy takes James's train, he is accidentally diverted onto a siding, and he plows his train straight into some buffers. The crew jumped clear before the crash impact, so they were not in the cab when the trucks hit the buffers, but they did jump out of a moving train. Again, this isn't Minecraft, bro. Series 4. In Grand Puff, Stuart and Falcon run into each other head-on with their trucks.
That would never suit his grace.
In Bulldog, Falcon nearly falls off the side of the cliff. I debated counting this, but he also crashes through a fence, so I'll allow it. The jolt from coming derailed could have easily harmed the crew members or passengers too.
This shot scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. Like, I really thought that Falcon was just gonna fall on me.
In Trucks, or Rusty Helps Peter Sam in some of the North American releases, Peter Sam has the big, terrible accident. This is easily the worst crash of the series so far. The Flying Kipper crash is awful, sure, but this is just something else. Rusty is absolutely mortified as he can see that Peter Sam was hurt, but we're not talking about the engines. We're talking about human injuries. There is no way that Peter Sam's driver wasn't hurt in this accident. If he had left the cab before the impact, he would have been killed. Staying in the cab was safer, but there's no way he took the hit from the loaded trucks like that and didn't get harmed. He likely ended up with broken bones and a concussion from being thrown against the back of the cab.
Beep, beep, wailed Peter Sam.
In Steamroller, George runs up against Sir Handel's train. This is a very minor accident, but it still counts. The only one who was likely to get hurt in this accident was George's operator. I also find it funny that it was even a debate about whose fault the accident was, as George is the only one capable of steering. Then again, Sir Handel probably shouldn't have tried to pass him, so I guess that's the debate.
Actually, I'm better.
Paint Pots and Queens is a notable episode, because it explicitly shows a human getting hurt for the first time. You tell me that this guy
fell from at least 10 feet above Henry and landed on his back and was not hurt.
You can say it, but you'd be a liar. Also, the Railway series story says he stumped crossly away, which implies that his gait is uneven, which would probably be caused by the injury from the fall. At least he could walk, I guess? I swear if I fall at all, I'm immobilized for a week before I can even think about walking again. Series 5.
In Cranky Bugs, we get a couple of crashes, but only one of them counts for this video. When Percy backs up because Cranky was rude to him again after he literally just saved his life, Percy ends up pulling Cranky over, and there's definitely an operator in the cabin because Cranky moved and then Percy knocked him over. There is an impact between two entities, Cranky and the Earth. Could you imagine how terrifying that was for Cranky's operator? Like, you're just cleaning up the mess on the docks and next thing you know, like, that must have been really scary.
What are you doing?
In the horrid lorry quarry lorry crash, you can actually see the driver was thrown from the cab of the truck, and you can see he is hurt with a huge comedic lump on his head.
Rotten roads.
A better view for Gordon is one of the most iconic crashes in the entire series, and it is often touted as the first crash in the series, not to say, luckily no one was hurt.
Help me, please.
As you can tell, that is not the case. It is also often referenced as the first crash to show a human get injured. But that is also not the case. This is not the first, and definitely not the last time that someone got hurt.
Sometimes I think about the fact that this crash was based on a real incident that happened in France, the Montparnasse. That's just gonna make me look foolish. But sometimes I think about the fact that this was based on a real event, and only one person did die in that crash. And it was a lady who was selling newspapers down on the street below. And I think about the fact that of all the ways my anxiety has prepped me for death and how to escape it, a train falling on me is not one of them. You could be prepared for everything all your life until a train falls on you. I tell people all the time that their anxiety lies to them, and this is one of those instances where I have to tell myself, like, hey, yeah, your anxiety doesn't actually prepare you. All it does is make you not live in the moment, and so you're thinking about things that aren't actually happening. When guess what? Things like this, a train falling on you, could happen, but oh, you're not going to think of that because it's not logical. It's not something that's an actual occupational hazard for a newspaper salesperson. Anyway, your anxiety is lying to you, and I can literally prove it mathematically. If you would like me to, you know what to do. In Lady Hat's birthday party, Sir Topham Hatt gets thrown off of George and lands in a big pile of mud. And starts slowly sinking.
Bother! Bother!
I have dreams like this sometimes where I'm just slowly sinking into the floor. I try to climb out, but there's nothing to hold on to. There's no floor underneath my feet. Because I am in the floor. There's nothing for me to push off of, no one to take my hand, no one to help me, no one to hear me scream, and no one to hear those screams turn into silence.
Whoa. Are you okay? I sound like I've just listened to your existential crisis, which that's a common thing for a content creator, so I'm not really asked about it.
You're an asshole, Thomas. Also, I realized while I was editing this that I really like these shots inside Thomas's cab with Sir Topham Hatt, because sometimes we forget that Sir Topham Hatt has done all the jobs. He didn't just become the controller. He knows what he's doing, and sometimes we forget that.
By George. After George paves over the level crossing and leaves it, Thomas comes derailed and runs through a field. Then he crashes through a chicken coop. He smashes a couple of walls and scrambled some eggs and probably his poor crew members' brains.
I don't want to use my hand!
Also, Gordon commits vehicular manslaughter against this poor, helpless truck.
That's not a very good joke.
In double teething trouble, Bill and Ben smash up against each other at the points and come derailed.
Let's rub our eyes together! You can get my pink eye, okay? Ow, 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 ow.
So hard to be friends these days.
Silly? The episode Something in the Air has a terrible Henry crash. I don't think there's a way his crew managed to jump clear, both because they couldn't see it coming, and even if they had, they would have been sucked under Henry and squished or drowned. This crash probably gave his crew at least a concussion and some scrapes and bruises, and you know what? Let's add hypothermia to that list.
Look, they've caught all this fish and a green whale, too. It's not a whale, it's a monster. Henry was most upset.
Poor Henry.
In Thomas and the Rumors, Gordon crashes into a tunnel under construction. The impact sent sand flying everywhere, so anyone close probably couldn't breathe properly for the rest of their lives.
In Oliver's Find, Oliver loses his temper and shoves some trucks into the turntable well. Then, after he's punished for doing so by having to take the mail train, he gets sent down an old line and ends up crashing into Toby's old shed. When Sir Topham Hatt finds them, he says,
I'm just glad to see you are all safe.
So, safe means stable, not necessarily unharmed, which is why I'm counting this.
Boulder didn't manage to hit any of the engines in Rusty and the Boulder. However, Rheneas crashed into the siding, potentially harming his driver.
Better a smash than a squash.
Series 6. A bad day for Harold is one of the more shocking instances that we are not assured that no one is hurt. Because we just watched a fucking helicopter crash! Harold falls out of the sky trying to take Percy's mail in his net, and he lands in a haystack. Contrary to popular belief, as someone who grew up on a farm, I can tell you that hay is not soft! It's sharp as fuck! And when it's stacked up or packed together, you may as well be landing on bricks. In Jack Jumps In, after he falls down the hillside at the worksite, they say that Jack wasn't hurt. But there is no mention of his operator, which brings into question just how these machines work, but that's not what we're here for today. In Twin Trouble, Donald gets distracted by his own pissy attitude, and Duck watches him shoot backwards through the buffers off the track. The world's strongest engine tries to pull 20 trucks with their brakes still pinned down, causing the coupling to snap and causing him to fly down the rails and fall onto a barge.
James and the Red Balloon has 2 crashes that count for this video. The first one is even acknowledged by the narrator. I'm really not sure how I missed it.
Duck gazed at it for so long, he ran into the back of Stepney.
And the next one is actually possibly worse than Harold the helicopter falling out of the sky.
Cried James, what's happening? Crash! Bang! Wallop went the balloon and landed right on top of James.
At least Harold's pilot had a seatbelt. These people were completely unsecured.
Rails are better than hot air any day.
Oh, you'd know all about hot air, wouldn't you, James? I did watch the US dub for this, but also I just like Michael's narration more than Alec Baldwin's in a few places. So, yeah, that's why I did that.
Percy's Chocolate Crunch has one of the most horrific crashes of the entire series. Not visually, as we don't see the crash happen. We just see the aftermath. But Percy smashed through a chocolate factory.
I've never been this dirty!
I don't know much about chocolate factories, but there's this place in my town called Cranberry Sweets where you can see the machines making different candies. What I have learned is that chocolate requires heat. So, how many factory workers got squashed by Percy, equipment falling on them, or, probably worse, burned by the hot liquid chocolate splashing from the drums? Not to mention the impact on his crew. We don't know, because they purposely don't show us. As a kid, we think, haha, dirty Percy! But as an adult, we think differently. In Buffer Bother, Bill and Ben head-on collide. Bill hits the buffers on the wall, then Bill also crashes exactly like Donald did in Twin Trouble.
You behaved badly, Bill.
Jack in the Pack. On Site with Thomas has a pretty epic and terrible crash with Patrick being run off the road by Max and Monty, and landing in
my beautiful concrete.
And trying to avoid an accident, Patrick ended up having one. No way the driver didn't get hurt.
Patrick, scolded Miss Jenny. Were you bragging about concrete again? I might have said something.
A Tale for Thomas shows Max crashing into Monty, and Monty crashing into the lightning tree.
But how will we know which one it is? You'll know. It's the biggest tree in the forest. Who put that there?
In The Tortoise and the Hare, Max and Monty decide to play bumper cars. Monty bumps Max, and then Max bumps Monty back, and they both go skidding off the road.
You dented me!
Series 7. In Percy Gets It Right, we see some of the beginnings of Percy's chronic anxiety, because he was right to be worried. Thomas crashes into a pile of earth on Toby's line. Percy pulls Thomas out of the landslide, and yay! Now everyone starts listening to Percy! They don't, though. The Old Bridge is an episode I actually want to do a whole video on, because I have a few things to say about it that will not fit here. But Skarloey smashes his face on the bridge beam, then dangles there like a fishing lure. In Edward's brass band, Big Mickey knocks Edward over with a ship boiler. I also noticed that the trombone player in this episode is later the tuba player, and stays the tuba player consistently for the remainder of the series. But I can excuse that because as a sax player who has played in sax quartets, you just play the part that's needed of you. Arthur's crash in the Spotless Record is pretty bad. He crushes every single one of his trucks, tarnishes his spotless record, covers himself and Duck in applesauce, and then Thomas makes fun of him on top of it.
I like apples and bananas.
Me too, bro. Me too.
Toby is distracted driving. Toby and the windmill. Toby is distracted by the windmill's sails and he crashes into some flour trucks. Now, I realize that this is Toby crashing into trucks, however, it's not just the trucks he crashes into, he pushes them through this platform. In Bad Day at Castle Lock, when the twins stop because of the trees across the line, the brake van is absolutely obliterated by a rock slide, so the conductor is probably injured. Luckily, no one else was.
I realized that I said that falling objects do not count. However, this actually knocked the brake van over, meaning that anybody who was inside definitely got a bit of a jostling. Oliver the snow engine crashes straight through the buffers before he ends up crashing through the snowman. I am only counting this as one crash because I don't see crashing through the snowman as enough of an impactful crash to possibly hurt somebody, but crashing through the buffers could have, and it was all part of one incident, so I'm just counting it as one.
That could have been a little smoother.
In Something Fishy, they said luckily Thomas wasn't hurt after
He's falling in the water!
Nothing about his crew, though. In Not So Hasty Cakes, Elizabeth rams into a snowdrift and she gets stuck. Again, that's like running into a wall. The driver knows he's about to get hurt. Look at the poor guy. Series 8. Thomas and the Tuba. Ugh. In Thomas and the Tuba, Thomas runs head-on into Percy's freight cars filled with bunting, and hits him hard enough that the truck gets smashed and Thomas derails.
You've spilt my bunting!
When Percy blows his new whistle, Thomas rams into his truck so hard that they are damaged, and Percy gets hit by a giant snowball.
I know that Trevor bumped into logs causing the snowball, but I'm not counting Trevor bumping into the logs because that wasn't really a crash. The snowball hitting Percy is a crash.
Percy took the biggest puff of all.
Me too, little buddy.
In Thomas to the Rescue, Diesel rams Thomas under the rock hopper. Hello, Whiplash. Jesus. In Henry and the Wishing Tree,
I'm worried about Henry.
Henry bumps the fuck out of his passengers. And then the next day, he does the same thing to the dining car.
Even though there are not passengers shown, it does say there are more complaints than ever, which kind of implies that there are passengers in the other coaches.
In the episode Thomas Saves the Day, Thomas slams the ordinary coaches into James. The whole ordinary coaches thing makes me ask questions that I cannot answer, nor do we have time to discuss them here. In Emily's new route, I'm American. In Emily's new route, Emily is so stressed out about possibly getting eaten by the black lock monster that she loses her temper after the trucks trick her into only bringing half the load of flour from the flour mill. She snaps and violently attempts to drown the remaining trucks when she returned to the mill.
Oh no!
In Fish, Season 8 Fish, not Season 4 Fish, Thomas takes way too many trucks and smashes them into the back of poor Salty while he's waiting at a signal. Also, it looks like they coated Thomas in, like, Vaseline to show the fish oil. My brother called it autism grease. So, yeah. Calling All Engines. Calling All Engines has a bunch of crashes.
And every single one of them is Thomas's fault.
It all starts here, with Thomas bumping Ari and Bert's car really hard. And then we have the engine fight. Keep in mind, I am counting each crash, so we have Diesel slamming into Thomas's paint trucks. Thomas biffs Ari off the rails into a rock pile. Ari bumps James under the coal hopper. Gordon rams, I'm pretty sure that's Bert, into a shed. Diesel forcibly shunts Toby onto the coal tipper. Emily slams Diesel through a shed. One of the Ironworks twins bumps Henry under a stream of sludge, so Henry pushes Diesel through a set of buffers and off the tracks. Something happens to Percy and Gordon off screen, but because we don't know what, I will not be counting those.
Now I'll show Thomas who's best. And he rolled away.
Oh shit, here we go! It's on! Race war! Race war! Race war! Race war's on, everybody! It's going down! Shit is going down! Yeah, come on, here we go. Race war. Come on. Race war. Race war's over, everybody! White's won again!
Series 9. In Mighty Mac, after the conjoined twins spend the entire time fighting about which direction to go, they eventually reach a dead end and push the coach off the track and into a boulder, which triggers a landslide. Luckily, no passengers were in the coach, but there's still a crew member driving, so it counts.
How the fuck did the coach get behind him?
What do you mean behind him? Mighty Mac has two faces. There is no behind him.
In Rheneas and the Dinosaur, Skarloey gets overexcited about the prospect of helping to take the dinosaur, and he speeds into Rheneas' coal trucks so hard that 2 trucks get completely obliterated.
That would never suit his grace.
Emily Knows Best has 2 massive crashes, however only one counts for this video. They tell us no one was hurt after Mavis and Percy crash into each other, but not after Toby crashes into them.
Emily, you must go and get help.
Toby, do you have any idea how much a psychiatrist appointment costs? You know the engines don't get paid.
In Thomas's day off, Dennis tries to escape work by pretending that he has something wrong with him. Then he tries to escape work by escaping. He ends up derailing and plowing himself into the dirt beside the tracks. I also love this very classic series moment when Thomas finds Dennis derailed. It cuts to his stank face after Dennis admits to being lazy, and you know Thomas is just like,
This lazy motherfucker made me work on my day off.
And it's not even about the fact that he had to work on his day off. It's about the fact that Dennis tricked him into working on his day off. Because if he had just asked for help, Thomas would have willingly helped him. But no, instead of asking him, he decided to trick him. And Thomas isn't going to stand for that. Thomas plays the tricks. He doesn't get tricks played on him. I did say that I would not be counting derailments. However, this derailment does include the impact of burying himself in the dirt. This accident also damaged Dennis, so it counts.
Bitch.
Thomas gets some new trucks and tries to prove to James that he is superior by keeping his new trucks clean. So to do this, he decides to use his old trucks for his coal load so the new ones couldn't possibly get dirty. The rusty coupling snaps and Thomas stops too quickly. Here we see why Duck is superior to Thomas. His trucks hit him and explode all over the track. Thomas could have never pulled off a close shave. Poor Edward constantly gets dragged down by James's ego. In keeping up with James, this is another case where he gets pulled into shit that wouldn't happen if James wasn't being fucking stupid.
James refuses to slow down while going down the hill in the ice and snow, and he derails at the curve and buries himself in the snow.
Bust my buffers! Oh, dear!
Series 10. In Thomas's tricky tree, Thomas decides he's smarter than all the little engines and doesn't need any help because Duncan teases him about his tree delivery by jokingly telling him what a tree looks like.
So Thomas takes someone else's train, plows it through a set of buffers, throws it in the canal, and then pouts about it. Typical fucking Thomas.
Big strong Henry has another pretty good crash. After taking too many trucks of hay, Henry slides out of control down the hill, doesn't make it around the bend, and crashes off the rails.
I really questioned counting this one because there isn't really an impact. I don't know, it was questionable for me, but I still counted it because it was a pretty good derailment and his train hit him afterwards. So yeah, I'm just gonna count it.
In the episode Sticky Toffee Thomas,
wow, apparently it's Sticky Taffy Thomas, and I said toffee every single time. I'm not changing it, deal with it.
In the episode Sticky Toffee Thomas, Thomas smashes into Toby because he got soap in his eyes. I mean, this is literally exactly what my 4-year-old thinks is going to happen when I wash her hair. Do you know how hard it is to give an autistic toddler a bath without you proving her fears correct, Thomas, you dick? He also daydreams about being a jet plane, and he gets distracted, which leads to him ramming the toffee tanker into a set of buffers, covering himself with toffee.
I have so many questions about why this taffy is liquid, because I've seen taffy made, and it is not ever in a liquid state. Like, what is going on here, Thomas? What did you do?
In Edward Strikes Out, Edward stops too fast, causing the sides of his trucks to collapse. Pipes fall all over the ground. Harvey is cleaning them up when Gordon steams through. Gordon hits the pipes, coming derailed and bouncing over to the next line. Also, this might be the worst wonky eye in the entire model series. Or maybe Harvey just has a lazy eye, I don't know. Maybe he and Rocky are related, because Rocky clearly has one too.
Go get him, Edward!
In Wharf and Peace, Skarloey jumps when a crane drops a load of pipes on the ground, and he biffs into his freight cars so hard that the buffers break behind him.
Scatty little engine!
James the Second Best is another episode where Edward gets dragged into some bullshit because of James's ego. James is so jealous of Edward being on the poster that he tries to show Edward up at every opportunity. But everyone keeps reinforcing to James that he is still not as good as Edward.
My brother pointed out that James has to deal with being the second best to the literal number 2. And that's just really funny to me.
James cuts Edward off at a signal, and Edward doesn't have enough time to stop. He runs into James, pushing him through his poster, and damaging his cylinder in the process. I like how Edward says sorry, even though it wasn't his fault. But James knows what he did.
He also very much did not deserve that compliment that he got at the end of the episode.
but, you know, it's the hit era. Series 11. Hector the Horrid starts with Bill and Ben struggling to move Hector, a big new coal truck. Rosie gets so scared by him shouting to keep away that she runs out of the yard. And Thomas just kicks his ass. Like, imagine being on a new job and being, like, scared of doing your job, and your coworker just beats you up because of it. You get your ass kicked for resisting doing something you're afraid of. That's Hector the Horrid.
I know I said I wasn't going to count biffing and bashing trucks, but this is not just biffing and bashing trucks. This is Thomas slamming into Hector so hard that he falls over, which means that this could have easily injured his crew.
Keep away!
On Henry's lucky day, Henry searches for Edward because he thinks Edward has his lucky trucks. When Henry finally finds him, he comes up too fast, slides down the icy rails, and obliterates his lucky trucks.
Sounds to me like those trucks were not so lucky.
Oh no! I've broken my lucky trucks!
In Thomas and the Lighthouse, we see Thomas ram into a gravel barrier.
You weren't concentrating, Thomas!
Thomas and the Big Bang has several crashes that could have hurt people because Thomas thought it would be appropriate to scare the little engines while they were working. Granted, the first time was an accident because he had just gotten a new whistle and he blew it loudly. But still, he kept doing it. Rheneas jumps and backs into his trucks and spills pipes everywhere. Rusty does the same to his brick trucks. Sir Handel plows his flour train into some buffers. Peter Sam gets so scared by all the noise that he pushes his log train through the buffers into the canal. I wonder how much Thomas's shenanigans cost the railway. Like, how much of a monetary liability is Thomas himself? In Edward and the Mail, Edward rams into a barrier because he was distracted thinking about the best way to do the mail run without having to ask Percy for help. Honestly, I get the pressure that Edward is under in this episode because being perfect is hard work. And keeping up the image of being perfect is even harder. In Thomas and the Runaway Car, Arthur slams into buffers and gets covered in fish to avoid the runaway car. Thomas and the Stinky Cheese has the most disgusting crash of the series. He slams the cheese truck into Bert, covering himself and the Ironworks twins in stinky cheese. Apparently, this was like nacho cheese sauce, or more likely, Thomas took so damn long to deliver it that it all melted. That is fucking gross. Cool Truckings has another crash into a snowbank.
I really like Madge. It's a shame that she wasn't used more, because she was a great addition.
The Great Discovery has 3 incidents that I classify as crashes. However, only one counts for this video.
That's when Thomas shoots out of the mine and bounces on the ground,
Plowing through vegetation and dragging his wheels along the rocks. Man, you know this really messed him up. Like, how did Stanley end up pulling him back on the tracks? If he hit rocks with his wheels, wouldn't that have hurt him? Wouldn't that have hurt him? Like, why? How is?
Oh dear. I don't know where I am. Nobody knows where I am. Nobody will be able to find me here. And no one will want to find me.
I'm having even more fun with you than I have with Thomas.
You're doing a wonderful job, Stanley. Yes, we don't even miss Thomas at all. Quite right, Clarabelle, though I do hope he's all right. I'm sure he's fine. No need to go out and find him, though. We have Stanley now.
Wow. Thomas has been missing. For 3 weeks. And I've never been happier!
All right, give me a fucking break. Can none of you see that I am experiencing character development right now? I have been through so much in this goddamn special, and I'm the one who made the Great Discovery. Why do you all love Stanley so much? What has he ever done? Smiled? I smile at you all the time and you never say anything to me. You know what? Who needs Sodor with its dry rails and its warm sheds? I'm happy to stay right here in this mine shaft. Oh, bother. I immediately regret my life choices! God above, I mean Audrey above.
Well, this is all my fault.
Oh, would you look at that? A stretch of line right in front of me. But guess what? I can't fucking move. Well, guess all I can do is play the waiting game. It's not like they'll want to find me anyway. I really did bring this on myself, didn't I? Oh, I wish I hadn't let Stanley pull all those trucks. I just didn't like him doing my jobs. I didn't like that everybody was taking a shine to him over my great accomplishment. It felt like it was devaluing me, but it really wasn't. Now look where I am.
No one said they love Stanley more than they love you, Thomas. You thought of that yourself.
Quit being a silly little engine and get your funnel on straight, Thomas. Just because you think badly of yourself doesn't mean everyone else does. Well, apart from me, but that kind of goes without saying.
We do miss you, Thomas. Even if you are being silly, especially when you're being silly. Silly Thomas. Yes, silly Thomas. Where are you, Thomas? Thomas, where are you?
Thomas, where have you been?
Series 12. Rosie's Carnival Special has Rosie pulling a train with the worst couplings ever made. This is clearly a significant manufacturing error. These need to be recalled by the manufacturer, because the pink sugar car slams into Stepney, and a flatbed with the Ferris wheel seats rams into Emily. Someone please call quality control so we can get rid of Season 12. In Mountain Marvel, Peter Sam runs out of control down the hill and hits the buffers. In the episode James Works It Out, James crashes his train into a snowdrift. Then to fix it, he rams the trucks with Hector, which somehow re-rails the freight cars, and he doesn't have to stop to recouple Hector to the train.
James is silly. James is slow. James has got us stuck in the snow.
Don't Go Back has a bunch of stupid crashes. Trust me, I will not be going back to this episode. Thomas slams into Diesel under the hopper. He pushes Mavis off the rails, and then the two of them crash into Ari and Bert, ramming them through the back of the engine sheds. In Gordon Takes a Shortcut, Gordon isn't paying attention and slams into a flatbed of logs, derailing it and bouncing poor little Ben.
What have you done?
When Thomas puts the brakes on, he gets diverted into a siding and slams the buffers. Push Me, Pull You has a game of tug-of-war.
Tug of war!
The chain breaks, and the cars push Skarloey down the hill. Skarloey crashes into Duncan's train, then into Rusty's train. Then he slams through the buffers, crashing into the pond. 3 incredibly stupid crashes in one incredibly stupid episode. Hero of the Rails. Hero of the Rails has 3 incidents that I would classify as crashes, and all of them count for this video. At the beginning of the movie, Spencer speeds down the rails and causes a vacuum of air that makes Emily's trucks slam into her. Then, during the competition Thomas has with Spencer, Thomas runs into some potato cars after his brakes malfunction. Then he crashes into flatbeds of jelly barrels.
My special jelly liquid
landed all over Thomas.
Series 13. In Slippy Sodor, Sir Topham crashes his car from
my special bubble liquid
multiple times. I mean, that bubble liquid must have incredibly high viscosity or something, because why is it so thick that it causes an accident from getting on the road? I've been driving for 16 years, and the only thing that's ever caused me to skid like that was ice. He crashes into a ditch, he crashed into a haystack, and he crashes into a pond! That was my Michael Brandon impersonation. Did you like it? I hope not. Pretty sure your car insurance company is not going to like that, Sir Topham. Mr. Bubbles looks fucking pissed, too. Then again, I'd also be fucking pissed if I was in 3 car accidents in one day. Literally. The last time I was in an accident, I literally pissed my pants. In a blooming mess, Emily causes Edward to crash into the flatbeds of flowers by putting them under the hopper at the quarry. Then, Thomas crashes into the flatbeds from the other side. Steamy Sodor is the episode in which Thomas is in charge of the steamworks for the day. Whose idea was that? Good lord. This is clearly the worst idea ever, and my day is ruined. And he causes several minor incidents because he demands too much of Kevin at once. Kevin gets overwhelmed and backs into James. James is, naturally, much more concerned with the state of his paintwork than his crew, and he blasts everyone in the near vicinity with whatever is in his funnel. Misty Island Rescue. Everyone's favorite Thomas special has a few incidents that count for this video. In the tunnel from Misty Island to Sodor, Thomas rams into the blockage in the tunnel, and the logging locos all ram into him before they run out of oil. That is 4 or 5 impacts for Thomas's crew, and at least 1 for each of the logging loco crews. Percy and Whiff bash into the blockage to break through as well. Series 14. In Toby and the Whistling Woods, Toby reverses and crashes into the trucks that Thomas and James shunted. Twice. No, I lied. 3 times. The inciting incident of the story, Henry's health and safety, is when Henry rams a freight car left on the main line hard enough to break one of his side rods. That must have actually been quite an impact. Thomas in charge. Again? Who keeps allowing this? Thomas causes confusion and delay by having Percy and Mavis join him at the docks to try to impress the inspector, which causes a head-on collision.
Thomas, what have you done?
Being Percy has a crash that includes passengers. Gordon rams the buffers and plows through them off the track while pulling the express to avoid hitting Percy head-on. I wonder what the lawsuits look like for this one. Day of the Diesels. This special is often labeled as one of the weaker ones, which I understand. But personally, I enjoy watching it just because it follows Percy instead of Thomas, which is a really nice change compared to the previous seasons. Upon this last rewatch, I realized there are no crashes until the Diesels start trashing the Steamworks. Airy, Bert, and Diesel slam into some buffers. And that's it.
Why would you think any of this was a good idea?
Probably because I'm a dangerous sociopath with a long history of violence.
Oh.
I don't understand how you keep forgetting that.
Series 15. James to the Rescue is one of the dumbest episodes ever. Whatever James was thinking while trying to save Gordon was not materialized, and he managed to cause the stupidest crash in the entire series.
Oh, the indignity.
However, I will give the episode this. Toby is fucking perfect. He just lets it happen.
Sure, he tries to warn him and stop him, but he's not particularly forceful about it because Toby knows that James isn't gonna listen to him anyway. So he just lets it happen, and then comes in and cleans up the mess, and James is left to think about what an idiot he is. Like, come on, that's great. That is proper Toby characterization.
I don't want to be a bother, James, but I think it's time for Rocky.
No, thank you, Toby.
Very good, James.
I am not a rescue engine.
Granted, he is not exactly like his Railway series characterization, and he's not exactly like his classic series characterization, but I think they struck a good balance with Toby in this episode.
Surprise, surprise! Thomas backs up too quickly and hits Charlie and derails him. Then Rocky drops the crate he is lifting, and Kevin bashes into it. In Kevin the Steamy, Kevin slams into the side of the car that Thomas and Percy are playing with and knocks it over. Then he rams an oil drum into Emily. Then another one into Spencer. Then another one that empties all over poor Victor. Wonky Whistle has a minor accident as Thomas leaves the Steamworks. When he blows his wonky whistle, Kevin rams into a wall.
Damn, Kevin really had a rough time this season.
Blue Mountain Mystery. I treated myself to watching Blue Mountain Mystery after watching the entire Nitrogen series back to back. And yes, I am not kidding. I watched the whole Nitrogen series in basically one sitting. Thomas spots Luke and tries to catch up to him and talk to him, and Luke backs into Sir Handel when he tries to run away from Thomas. Thomas is winched up the incline on Owen and then rams through the buffers and dangles off the side of the mountain, leading to a truly heroic, albeit unrealistic, act by Luke.
I can do this! I'm your friend!
Oh, trembling tracks!
Then, Thomas drags Luke down with him, as he does to most who are involved with him, and crashes at the bottom of the incline. I love Blue Mountain Mystery. Series 16. In Percy and the Monster of Brendam, Edward crashes into Rocky in the fog. Flash, Bang, Wallop is an excellent show of Thomas being up his own ass. Percy crashes into a coal heap, and James crashes through the buffers because Thomas gets in the way and distracts them. Then Thomas is rewarded for his transgressions by being put on the cover of the Railway book. Like, what exactly is the moral here? In Bust My Buffers, Gordon rams Diesel's flatbed and breaks his buffers.
Oh, the indignity.
Then he crashes his flatbed into another truck at the diesel works hard enough to break off his buffer beam.
Bust my buffers!
Bubbling boilers. Yeah, so I wasn't actually sure where to put this. I'm actually not even 100% sure if it's canon. This special is the spiritual successor to Slippy Sodor. It also includes elements of Slippy Sodor that were scrapped, such as Thomas blowing bubbles out of his funnel. This special has 4 crashes that count for this video, but because they're all part of one incident, I am counting them as one crash. It starts with Thomas crashing through the wall into Ulfstead Mine. Thomas runs into the little mine carts as he enters the mine, and it ends with the mine carts rear-ending him, and then him busting through the waterfall and landing on his side. I'm gonna count this as one crash because it was all part of one large incident, even though there were multiple impacts. Now his crew seems to be fine, you can see them sitting here, but I mean, they're probably not. Let's be real. They gotta work with Thomas every day. No one would be fine if they had to work with Thomas every day. I'm definitely in a weird place emotionally because I watched this and I teared up a little bit. Like when Thomas said, "Oh, if only I had listened." Like, I don't know, it kind of pulled my heartstrings a little bit. But then the ending also kind of gets to me because Cranky has valid reasons to be cranky. He has valid reasons to be as crabby as he is. Like, he can't leave ever. He can't move, ever. It's hot. It's cold. It's windy. It's salty. It's rainy. I live in a coastal town, and those are all things that I can't stand about living in a coastal town, and I at least get to go inside. And it's such a nice ending for him that he finally gets the recognition that he deserves. Everyone recognizes Salty and what he does for the docks, but nobody ever tells Cranky that he's really useful. Nobody ever tells Cranky that he's doing a good job and that they wouldn't be able to do it without him. Cranky feels unappreciated. Because he is.
King of the Railway. King of the Railway was my brother's favorite Thomas special for a long time, because his name is also Stephen. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was his favorite because King of the Railway is just a great Thomas special. Stephen crashes through the wall of the mine, and then the trucks crash into the rocks that fell down behind him in front of the entrance to the mine, with Thomas and Percy still attached to the train.
This crash was 100% Thomas's fault. I see this as Thomas once again dragging someone down with him, because he was told by the Earl that they should wait for James. He was told by the Earl that they should wait for James, and Percy protested when they started because he knew that someone should be at the front. But Thomas was like, "Oh no, let's just go," and then he drags him down the hill with him. What a dick.
Series 17. In the Phantom Express, we see Stephen fall into the dry moat and his crew jumps clear. To be fair, I don't think they got hurt, even though they don't say that they didn't get hurt, because Stephen doesn't go very fast.
Well, that wasn't very clever now, was it?
However, Percy drops in after James scares him, and they don't tell us that Percy drops in after James scares him, and they don't tell us that his crew jumped clear or that they weren't hurt. So we'll count Percy's crash.
Hello, Percy. I see you found the meeting place.
Away from the sea. Salty runs into the oil delivery flatbeds at the diesel works after being fixed. Then, when he reaches Brendam, he can't stop and hits some trucks full of party supplies. He still isn't stopping, so Porter purposely runs into the trucks and stops the train.
Yay!
I know that one kind of breaks my rules about not including engines bumping other engines to prevent an accident. However, this one is a head-on collision.
In Thomas's shortcut, Thomas learns that Birdie has been rerouted. So while he is looking for his own shortcut, he hits a set of buffers in the undergrowth and ends up derailing.
Oh no! I can't back up! I'm stuck!
That was fully deserved, Thomas. You deserved that.
Tale of the Brave.
You look like you're in a sunny mood again, James. Huh. Well, it's not sunny. It's nighttime.
I absolutely adore Tale of the Brave. I love Percy and I love James separately as characters, and their dynamic in this special is so good. I want to do another video separately on just James and Percy's dynamic throughout the show, because it's a very important one. However, I'm not going to dig into it too much here because I got a video to move on with. So, James gets scared by Gator in the dark, which leads to an
excellent sequence of James screaming.
Frightened that he missed the red signal, hit the points, fell off the rails, and ended up in a pond.
Instead of luckily no one was hurt, we get this.
Are you all right? I didn't mean to give you a fright.
Oh, James. I see you met Gator.
That moment was extremely important in the grand scheme of the movie and in the grand scheme of Percy and James's characters. It's not something I'm going to dig into now, but it's something that is worth talking about in its own video. If you'd like to ensure that you see this video, well, hit the subscribe button, please.
After James leaves the scrap monster on the line to punish Percy for seeing him get scared, Percy runs away as fast as he can and slams headfirst into the buffers at the back of the Percy runs away as fast as he can and slams headfirst into the buffers at the back of his berth. Series 18. In signals crossed, James bumps and pushes Toby and Henrietta forward at the faulty signal at the platform.
I noticed on this last watch through that James became even more impulsive in the Brenner era. Like, he was already an impulsive hothead, but the Brenner era dialed that up to 11. Henrietta is full of passengers right here. Why would he do this?
Duck gets stranded on his branch line because of the rain flooding the tracks, and James rushes off to rescue him with Rocky before they can secure his crane arm, and Rocky's chain knocks down a signal.
I knocked something over! I'm sure it couldn't have been anything important.
This causes Oliver to bump into James and Rocky, but this bump doesn't count. Because
luckily nobody was hurt.
However, the chain reaction of Percy hitting Oliver, hitting James, and hitting Rocky does, as the narrator doesn't say it again.
So many accidents. How could this have happened on my railway?
So I do have to give James credit here that he admits to the accidents being his fault. He comes to that conclusion on his own, too. James's ego will do anything to make anything that he does someone else's fault, which is very typical for a narcissistic personality. So I do have to give him some credit there for actually admitting to it without being prompted, which is a big step for someone like James.
Oh, actually, sir, I suppose it was my fault. I didn't give Rocky time to secure his crane arm properly. That's why he was swinging about. I can't say that I am very happy about this, James. But I am proud of you for admitting what you have done.
I know I've gone on quite a bit of a tangent about James, but I do have to also point out right here that this is how gentle parenting is supposed to work. This is positive reinforcement.
But I am proud of you for admitting what you have done.
If anyone knows how difficult it is for James to admit when he is wrong, it's Sir Topham Hatt. When your child hears you say, "I am proud of you," even though they just made a huge mistake, it shows that you still care about them, even if they make mistakes. Gentle parenting is really about natural consequences. And so James's actions led to an accident that could have been prevented. And so he ended up having to clean up his mess, essentially. Not only did James get proper positive reinforcement, he also got appropriate disciplinary action. And that's what gentle parenting is really supposed to be. It's not permissive parenting. Permissive parenting is neglect on some levels. And it's not letting your kid walk all over you. It is, I am in charge for a reason. You have to trust me to be in charge. And I have to trust you to do what I say. And that's how I approach my parenting, and that's also how I have approached every job that I've had because I've been in management in pretty much every position. I am in charge for a reason. You need to listen to me. I will listen to your concerns because I respect you. And I could definitely be wrong. I'm not perfect. My kid has told me that she has a problem with me doing certain things, and I've stopped doing them and changed my approach, and she behaves better because of it. Hey, Dirty Percy, I don't think the people watching this video are coming here for a lecture on how to be an effective parent. Okay, well you went on a tangent, get back to it. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry's not good enough, Percy, just go do your job. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, where were we? Oh, Thomas the Quarry Engine. Man, I guess I really was just kind of getting in my... I said leave, Percy! Okay! Some gentle parent you are. I heard that!
In Thomas the Quarry Engine, Thomas takes the train of stone trucks without a back engine and plows into the buffers, as well as getting smashed by the train behind him. This only counts as one crash, as it was all part of one incident. Percy is distracted thinking about Gator, and he backs into his truck as Stafford shunts them to him. Spencer's VIP had a bunch of shenanigans. James gives everyone a terrible bump at Wellsworth by slamming his brakes when coming up to the platform. I thought this episode would have more, but only James injures his passengers, which seems accurate. Emily saves the world by chasing it around Sodor. James hits the runaway globe head-on when he exits a tunnel, and he makes a really funny sound when it happens. The adventure begins. In the really useful engine montage, Thomas isn't paying attention, and he rear-ends Edward.
Big Brother Ed.
He also runs a line of trucks into a set of buffers, taking himself, and I'm sure his crew, by surprise. I didn't count this crash in Season 1 because it happened off-screen, but The Adventure Begins shows this crash in all its gruesome glory, as James tips off the rails and smashes into the ground, dragging his face in the dirt and obliterating his beautiful black paintwork.
I've fallen, and I can't get up!
Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure. This special has several excellent crashes, however neither of the big crashes count, as no humans were involved in them, the coaches were empty, and Thomas's crew jumped out when Thomas was teetering at the top of the sinkhole. Henry sees a ghostly sailboat and gets diverted into a siding, bashing into the buffers.
Ow.
The pirate ship drags Ryan along a siding when the rope whips around his buffer and slams him into a set of buffers. Thomas purposely bumps Skiff hard enough to knock over Sailor John. Series 19. Who's Jeffrey? Well, apparently, he's the one who shunted the trucks into Salty and caused the docks to be covered in the biggest bouncy balls I have ever seen. Snow Place Like Home has Kevin's worst crash of the series.
And he's had quite a few.
He is playing in the snow, and he skids out of control, crashing into the building and landing on his side in a snowdrift. In The Beast of Sodor, one of my favorite Dowager Hat appearances,
Utter tis-toss.
Sir Topham Hatt crashes his car into a snowdrift because of the icy roads. Brenner Era flat out abuses Sir Topham with snow and ice. He must have fucked up his back so many times.
Oh, Mother is going to be cross. I just know it. Oh.
Oh, I caught this one while I was editing. I missed it before, but Spencer runs into Henry when Henry stops suddenly when he hears the fat controller shouting across the field.
And if there's one thing I can't stand, it's lateness.
In Helping Hero, Thomas's load of pipes comes loose, and Hero hits the pipes, falling over on his side. The gong crash at the end of all of that is a nice touch.
Hero, are you all right?
The best engine ever rear-ends Emily at speed coming down the hill, and Emily has to use her own braking power to stop her. The little engine who raced ahead has a head-on collision with Percy when he first meets him. Then, in Philip to the Rescue, James derails and crashes into a wall on a bridge because he took too many cars.
Help! Help!
Philip then tries to get help, but instead of going backwards, he runs under James, getting squashed and damaged in the process.
I told you I was very strong!
In Diesel's ghostly trick, Paxton takes the big tree to Ulfstead Castle and is pulled over onto his side because the tree is off balance.
Ow.
After Paxton's part of the Christmas Carol trick, Diesel is so scared that he runs away and hits the damaged track where Paxton derailed, and he crashes as well.
Help! Help! Help!
Rocky Rescue has a great crash. When the workmen free the rock Henry ran into, it knocks Rocky's support out from under him, and his chain to Thomas breaks. This leads to an epic crash sequence where Rocky falls over, and the entire search and rescue team saves him instead of Judy and Jerome saving him for some reason. The Great Race. In the Will You Won't You montage, Diesel slams into Philip, sending him careening down the track and out of sight. Donald rear-ends Winston and Sir Topham Hatt and pushes them all the way to Knapford. When Thomas tries to follow the rail ferry, Ashima doesn't know that he is behind her, and she gives him a bump, leaving him teetering on the edge of the docks before pulling him back to safety.
What, you think you're better than everyone else just because you're sexy? I have no idea what came over me.
After Diesel leaves his train of trucks and diesels being hidden under crates, Paxton mistakes Thomas's whistle for the signal to push the train, and the engines push Thomas into a terrible accident with Norman. This accident must have been so gruesome that they couldn't show it on screen, or they were trying to save on the animation budget, but your guess is as good as mine.
Thomas also pulls something that feels like it's straight out of a messed up geometry equation from my high school years, and he jumps across the bridge. I don't know how he did that. I really feel like he would have just fallen off the end because he weighs 40 tons. But then again, he did do something like this in The Great Discovery, so I can't be too upset about it.
I did it!
Philip collides with Vinny head-on, which leads to Philip being chased across the yards. Philip gets the last laugh here, though, as Vinny gets pulled off of him by Thomas and Ashima, and he breaks away from them, running into an electrical tower. Thomas then forfeits the shunting challenge by colliding with a derailed flatbed and wins the Good Sportsmanship Award. Series 20. When Henry gets the express, Gordon does Henry's Blue Mountain Quarry run. The cars let their brakes slip on, then back off, which causes Gordon to shoot forward and bounce over the points and slam into the buffers at the end of the line.
Uncouple me at once. I'm going back to my shed.
I only asked how his day was going.
In Diesel and the Ducklings, Diesel is his usual prick self and bumps into Thomas at the docks. Then he bumps Percy out of the way at the washdown. Then, when Thomas is going to show Ari and Bert the Ducklings, they bump into each other when Thomas stops suddenly. I couldn't tell you which one is which though, sorry. I also don't care. Bradford the Brake Van is a total hard-ass drill sergeant type.
I'm in charge now, so no bumping and none of you a cheek. When you're ready, Thomas.
And Thomas decides to leave the quarry with his trucks overfilled with no brake van, which causes him to crash into Percy. When mucking about, Max and Monday decide they want to get their jobs done faster, and they dump their loads of debris over the side of the bridge instead of taking it all the way to the dump. But they didn't realize this was blocking Thomas's branch line and causes Thomas to have an accident and derail. 3 steam engines gruff. While stupid as an episode, does have a crash that counts. Percy comes screaming into Tim's sheds after he hears a cow moo from under the bridge and bashes Henry so hard that he pushes him back to the back of his berth. In the missing breakdown train, the big prize bull has escaped yet again, and Daisy is diverted down the siding so quickly that she bounces on the points and derails, crashing into a small boulder. I thought this was supposed to be Champion at first, but Champion is actually white with big brown spots. This is actually the prize bull from season 7. Journey Beyond Sodor. Henry has a terrible crash at the beginning of the Journey Beyond Sodor movie. A faulty signal causes him to plow straight into the back of Hero's goods train, bounce across the next line, and break through the bridge wall, leaving him dangling dangerously above the road.
Can't even blame the guy for screaming here. And then instead of luckily no one was hurt, we get this.
Poor Henry wouldn't be going to the mainland now.
Wow, okay, so when Sir Topham Hatt is on the phone, 5 minutes later in the film, he says, "Thank goodness nobody was hurt." So this crash does not count. James backs into Thomas in his first Somebody Has to Be the Favorite reprise. Thomas crashes through the gate with a couple of flatbeds when he escapes the steelworks.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this a Shawshank Redemption reference, or am I just tripping?
James runs head-on into a diesel shunter at Bridlington Goods Yard. Hurricane and Frankie run into the flatbeds of pipes that Lexi and Merlin use to block them from chasing James. Hurricane ramps Thomas out of the way of the steel slag to prevent Thomas from getting melted. Merlin then comes in and slams Hurricane out of the way to stop him from melting more. Series 21. In Springtime for Diesel, Diesel shunts into Paxton, then Sydney, then he takes it too far by shunting into Daisy, and he causes her to require a hip replacement surgery.
It's the Diesel works, or more.
He continues in this fashion and bumps into Thomas.
Hey!
In Runaway Engine, Millie thinks that Steven and Glenn left the garden waste for her to clean up, even though she was busy doing other jobs. So she does what any good mother does when their kid keeps leaving garbage around. She dumps it on their bed. Steven crashes into the pile of waste when he pulls in, then he gets bumped by Glenn, which sends Steven back into the pile.
It wasn't fair to leave it for me.
The fastest red engine on Sodor decided to destroy Tidmouth Sheds by showing off. Also, I like the parallel that Rosie has with Thomas in this. She tries to stop James, even though it wasn't possible. We do see James's crew jump out just in time, but James was going at full fucking speed. There is no way they didn't get hurt. You jump out of a vehicle going 80 miles per hour and tell me that didn't hurt you. You can say it, but you'd be lying to me, and I don't take kindly to lying. The big freeze delays deliveries, and Diesel decides to punish Thomas for it by bumping him out from under the coal hopper. In Emily in the Middle, Toby crashes into a snowdrift. The twins fight each other on Gordon's Hill, but I'm not going to count these, because I don't want to. While they fight, Emily can't hold the train by herself. This is, I believe, the third time that an engine gets taken out by a giant snowball. And Emily's second ever derailment in the series.
I also really love the top-down view of seeing Emily on her side like that. It lets the gravity of the situation set in for a moment. Also a great moment of Emily standing up for herself, which is something that she doesn't really do.
For goodness sakes, you two! I was trying to help you out! If you would just stop arguing for 1 minute, you'd see it's me that needs some help now.
This scene also confirms, for sure, that the engines have some kind of control over their functions. Because look here, Emily's crew is over here, and she whistled. We saw them pop out of the snowball too. Like, they have not been in the cab the whole time, and she was able to whistle by herself. I want to put a disclaimer here before I start the Big World Big Adventures era of the show. Any crashes that happen in the final 3 seasons are treated as the equivalent of bumping into your friend when you walk past them. So there's a lot of instances that count for this video, but it's very obvious that they didn't have to say luckily no one was hurt because it was very obvious that no one was hurt. But I do still want to follow my own rules for the video, so here we go.
Series 22. The number 1 engine enters the yards too fast because he was late, and he bumps right into Yang Bao. Watching this made me realize that one of the biggest issues that I take with the Bubba series is that they use British rolling stock and signals all over the world. Why would they do that? I don't think the signals would look like that. And why does he see so many steam engines?
That might be the most unrealistic part of the entirety of Big World Big Adventures, is that Thomas sees steam engines everywhere he goes.
Anyway, then because Thomas was racing off the main line, he hit a rock on the line and derailed. Rebecca enters the scene in confusion without delay, and gives a great first impression by rear-ending Winston as she comes screeching to a stop through Knapford Yard. Philip also hits the back wall of the shed at Wellsworth, startling Edward awake. When Rebecca goes to Brendam Docks, she moves out of Salty's way, and because she was not paying attention, collides with Diesel head-on.
Hey, watch out, Rebecca, by the way.
Whoops, I'm sorry.
In Samson and the Fireworks, it is so foggy that the engines can barely see where they are going. Thomas nearly collides with Gordon, then Gordon nearly hits Emily, then right after we think everything is going to be okay, Rebecca comes in and ruins the day by colliding with Emily, sending her into Gordon, while Gordon has an express full of passengers. When Samson hits his fog detonators, he freaks out and starts going faster and faster until he slams into the back of Nia's train, where he pushes her along until she is able to speed away from him. Then he's diverted into a siding where he bashes the buffers, finally coming to a stop. Runaway Truck, or the Tai Chi episode, which I hate. This episode is fucking stupid. I didn't even want to include this, but because Lei is also running down the tracks and derails, I will include it for technicality's sake, as it is a head-on collision, and not just trucks getting bumped too hard. I'm not gonna count all the practice runs that they do in the yard though, because why the fuck does Lei fall over so easily? Although, again, this is just further proof as to why Duck is superior to Thomas. In Thomas's animal arc, he has all the animals from the animal park loaded into his train to take to Tidmouth, but he hits a snowdrift and gets stuck. Apparently he actually learned something when he was off of Sodor, because he has the idea to have the elephants help him. Look at you, Thomas, applying learned knowledge. Like, wow, that's new. Rosie is red. Or have you forgotten? Well, Diesel shunts her at Well, Diesel shunts into her at the docks and causes Cranky to drop the load onto the ground instead of her flatbed. In the case of the puzzling parts, Paxton and Sydney are trying to figure out what Sydney's job is, or something, and then Sydney breaks down in one of the tunnels at the Blue Mountain Quarry, and Paxton, unable to see him, crashes into him, pushing him out of the tunnel. Poor Sydney is constantly getting his brain scrambled. Also, apparently he's backfiring right here. What the hell is that about?
Ugh, I sure am hungry. How can you eat when you're farting fire? Shut up, dude. You're being totally immature.
Series 23. In Crowning Around, Noor Jahan comes blasting into the yard and nearly hits Shankar, who is sleeping on a junction for some reason. That seems stupid, but what do I know about running a railway? Rajiv pushes him out of the way just in time for Noor Jahan to crash through the buffers in the shed. In the episode Chucklesome Trucks, Thomas, Percy, and James are so worried about Rebecca pulling the Chucklesome fucks that they get themselves into trouble. James hits the tar tankers and somehow has tar on him before the impact. Not really sure how that happened. Thomas misses a signal, but Percy plunges right into a puddle. However, only James's incident counts as Percy has no impact. I do have to give Rebecca this as a character. She is so damn cheerful and good-natured that it takes the trucks so off guard, they can't fuck with her. She just rolls with it, and it confuses them so badly they don't even try. They can't try. Clearly, Rebecca has problems with depth perception, though, because she comes into Timothy Sheds too fast and rear-ends Winston yet again.
Yay, me!
I know a lot of people don't like Rebecca as a character, but in this last watch through, she's really grown on me because I know it seems like she didn't do a lot because she didn't. You know, I'll be honest there, she hasn't done a lot. But there's a lot of potential there that just didn't really get used. I appreciate Rebecca for what she is. She doesn't try to be the center of attention. She doesn't try to show off. She is just there to do her job. And you know what? That's totally fine. I'm okay with that. I don't have an issue with that. I have no problems with her as a character. I wish they had done more with her because there is actually quite a lot of potential even with her kind of basic personality. Because just the fact that she has the trait of purposely seeking out the best in others is enough to do some really cool story things. And they kind of did that a little bit in the episode What Rebecca Does. And it's unfortunate that it didn't really get explored more, which is why it's popular to dislike Rebecca. And don't get me wrong, I understand, but I just don't fully agree with it. I appreciate her quite a lot as a character, which is why I'm currently working on a short video essay called What Rebecca Does. So, keep an eye out for that. Please?
In Diesel Do Right, Rebecca shows up at the Diesel Works to question Diesel about the jobs he asked for help with, and she runs right into Thomas. Can someone please get her some glasses already? Like, she clearly has issues with depth perception, and we know that trained glasses exist. Can we please help her?
Also, does anyone else think that this episode title is a reference to Dudley Do Right? I feel like it is.
Panicky Percy flips a shit because of the snow and tells everyone that Thomas had an accident. Then he has one himself, falling on his side and sliding into a snowbank.
This is what happens when you don't treat your anxiety. Take your medication. There's a reason it's prescribed to you.
Monty gets into deep trouble when the ground gives way beneath him at the construction site, and he falls into a sinkhole. Granted, this isn't exactly a crash, but it is still a collision between two entities, Monty and the Earth, so I'm counting it.
In Diesel Glows Away, he rear-ends Paxton and then proceeds to head-on collide with Nia.
I sometimes wonder, Nia, if it might be easier to be useful if Diesel wasn't around.
Series 24. Thomas's fuzzy friend caused him to derail because he got distracted and ran over a tree on the line, which, although it's barely a crash, still counts because it's a collision. Also, can we please all agree that James 100% deserved this?
No! Not on my shiny wheels.
They're certainly shiny now, James.
Kinda surprised that Gordon didn't have anything to say about it right there, but maybe he felt bad for him. I don't know. Sometimes Gordon does pity James.
Emily to the Rescue has possibly the dumbest crash after James's awful Series 15 crash. It's animated like my toy trains when I crash them into each other. All because Percy was an idiot and ran a signal when he went to fetch Rocky.
Honestly, all this crash was missing is the Season 7 slide whistle effect. There's no way that nobody got hurt here. Look at that. 3 engines colliding and Rebecca's on her side. Somebody got hurt. There's no way that they didn't.
In Gordon and Rebecca coming through, Gordon nearly collides with Rebecca, but instead he is sent down a siding, crashes through the buffers, and slides along the ground before coming to a stop.
Not a fan of this episode, personally. Gordon just doesn't feel like he's in character at all.
Cleo the road engine gets a little love tap from Gordon as she tries to run away from him on the rails.
I like the concept of Ruth. Not a huge fan of how she was utilized. But I do not like Cleo, because why did Ruth build Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? Like, why? Why do we have Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in Thomas the Tank Engine? One thing I do kind of like, though, is it does not appear that Gordon is trying to stop at all. There's no sparks. There's no screeching. It really doesn't look like he's trying to stop in any way. I kind of like that, actually. I don't know why.
Thomas and the Royal Engine.
Duchess bumps into Thomas's coach, sending him shooting forward into the coal trucks under the hopper.
Help! I'm choking!
And I think that's all of them. I did my very best, and I believe that I have found every single crash in the Thomas and Friends series where they do not say, "Luckily no one was hurt." Now, looking back on all of this, it appears that the line, "Luckily no one was hurt," was a product of the hit era. Granted, it did not start in the hit era, but it wasn't really said a lot before then. However, the lack of the line, "Luckily no one was hurt," being said, also seems to be a product of the hit era, as they tended to not say it if the only people who could possibly get hurt was the crew of the engines involved. If passengers weren't involved, I guess the insurance companies weren't either. Luckily no one was hurt also seemed to mean, luckily they didn't hurt anyone else. Thinking about this and looking back on this whole project, I think that the reason we as the fandom perceive the classic series as more realistic than the hit era and onward, because we're not told that no one was hurt after witnessing a horrifying accident. Remember, even a small jolt can permanently damage you, and not getting hurt is sometimes completely unrealistic. You know, I had written a whole transition paragraph that was like, how many crashes were there? I've lost track. But you know what? You can hear the music. You know what's about to happen. Triangle! That's right, dear. Triangle.
Ow. This was easily the longest script I have ever written, and the most intense video editing I have ever had to do. I nearly scrapped this project multiple times because I questioned why I even did it. My kids started public school back in March and brought everyone in the house the gift of bronchitis within the first week. So I was also sick for about 2 months. That was cool. That's also why my voice sounds wildly different in certain parts of the video, as I was still really sick when I did the bulk of the audio recording. We're all good now though. Thank you everyone. If you made it this far, I really don't know how I could properly thank you. You, however, can thank me for doing this research so you don't have to by hitting the subscribe button, liking this video, and leaving a comment. If you have any questions, suggestions, concerns, or you think I missed any crashes that fall within my guidelines set at the beginning of the video, please comment below. However, I am not taking criticism at this time. I'm very excited about the upcoming changes in my life and career and how they will elevate the quality of my content. I just got hired at a local car dealership selling Toyotas, so my available free time will change. I'll have less overall free time, but it will be much more consistent, and my creativity thrives in a consistent environment. This video marks a significant milestone in my content creation journey, and I am glad that I was able to share it with you. Luckily, no one was hurt in the making of this video.